Salon owner that has become the latest flashpoint in how and when we reopen our state. A Dallas judge held her in contempt of court last week for refusing to close her business and sent her to jail for 7 days. The Texas Supreme Court released her, and Governor Abbott now says no one should face fines or jail time for violating his orders. So what are they worth? Our first guest this morning, whose job it is to defend the state, is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. General Paxton, thanks for being with us. Good to see you as always.
Jason, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you.
You are in your office this morning down in Austin. Let me ask you this first question. If a Texan cannot be fined or jailed for violating the governor's orders, what good are they?
Well, first of all, I don't think the governor eliminated fines. What he eliminated was going to jail for working. So I never complained when this started. I never complained about her getting a fine. It just seemed a little odd and overreaching for somebody that is doing something that is normally lawful, cutting hair, in a county that is releasing prisoners from jails. The story I heard was that almost 1,000 were released, and we're fighting them now and further releases of some very bad people, that they would put her in jail for doing something that normally is a lawful activity.
I believe the fines were from Houston when the governor was telling the county judge there that they couldn't fine people for not wearing masks. Judge Lena Hidalgo wanted that. So it's a separate case, but I think just kind of encompassing. Let me ask you, what kind of precedent, General Paxton, do you think that this might set for future orders if there's another pandemic or an emergency that the governor has to issue on?
Well, I think it's a good precedent. First of all, I don't think in American history we've put anybody in jail for cutting hair in a voluntary basis. So the precedent here was unusual, since I don't think you can find another case of somebody going to jail for doing this. So I think it's a good precedent, and I think what she did by taking this challenge on is she basically created a lot of transparency, a lot of light on an issue that needed to be addressed in a better way. And look, I almost don't fault anybody for this. This is we don't have a roadmap for this, and there's a lot of challenges and new issues. I think the judge took it a little too personally when she didn't apologize, and should have based this decision more on what she had done by not complying with the order, rather than how she was not apologizing the right way in court.
General Paxton, I know you've probably heard this next story. In mid-April, Laredo police set up a sting and busted 2 women down there for trying to perform beauty and cosmetic services from their home. Both of those women were charged with Class B misdemeanors. Should those charges be dropped?
I would. I think, again, I'm glad they didn't have to serve. I think they were in jail for a couple hours. I'm glad they didn't have to serve time, but even 2 hours to me was extreme. Again, I don't have a problem with fines for violating these orders, but I do think that any type of criminal prosecution is too much. And my understanding is that the DA is not going to criminally prosecute them for those misdemeanors. So I'm pleased to hear that.
That's down in Laredo. Gyms are not allowed to reopen until May 18th, a week from tomorrow. Would the owner of a gym, do you think, be charged by a local entity before then if they decided to reopen, let's say May 15th or something like that?
It's possible. I don't know. I haven't heard of a gym that is potentially violating that order. At least there haven't been any that I know of so far. So I expect these gyms to comply. If they don't, they may suffer similar consequences, but hopefully not jail time.
General Paxton, you've really helped the governor explain his orders, but we noticed you're a longtime campaign manager and the campaign manager for your wife. She's the one we saw running the Open Texas protests. Just curious what side you fall on in all of this.
I have a different job than she does. She doesn't work for either one of us anymore. She's a great person, a multi-talented individual, and I'm sure she's doing great work. But my job is to represent the governor, the legislature, state agencies, and now under the Disaster Act, I have to represent county judges and mayors. So I don't get to do policy decisions. My job is to focus on representing my clients.
All right, and your client, obviously, the state of Texas, so we appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Have a great day.
Democrats, of course, have a different take on this. They are asking why Attorney General Ken Paxton and Governor Greg Abbott got involved in a local case. This one especially weeks after other Texas women had already been charged for similar crimes. So joining us right now is State Representative Chris Turner from Grand Prairie here in North Texas. He also chairs the House Democratic Caucus. Chris, it's good to see you again.
Jason, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Let me ask you the first question that I asked the Attorney General as well. If a Texan cannot be fined or jailed for violating the governor's orders, what good are they?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, none of us want to see people jailed or imprisoned unless it absolutely has to be done. And clearly, there needs to be a very high bar for jailing someone who's not a danger to others. But look, the facts of the matter is the governor issued executive orders. They have the force of law. In his executive orders, he clearly stated that jail time was a penalty for violating his executive orders. That's the first point. But the second point, equally important, is that in this case, Ms. Luther wasn't jailed because of violating the executive order. She was jailed because she was found to be in contempt of court when she repeatedly refused to comply with the executive order that a judge tried to make her comply with. So it's kind of a little twisted the way some Republican politicians have talked about this in the last few days.
Well, let me ask you about one element of it. You said that General Paxton was inappropriate by getting involved in the Shelley Luther case in Dallas, but Paxton could not legally intervene. He just sent a letter in support of her. What's wrong with the letter in support?
Well, right. So my comment on that was simply highlighting the letter that 12 district judges in Dallas County sent to Attorney General Paxton in response to his letter, saying, in their view, it was inappropriate for him to have contacted the judge in the case, and that his intervention or his contact was unwelcome. And so I thought the fact that 12 district judges were writing the Attorney General saying essentially cease and desist with these kinds of communications was noteworthy. And I can't recall something like that happening before.
We saw you tangling with another state representative from across the aisle on Twitter. Is there something here, do you think, House Democrats might look at in the coming weeks?
Well, look, I think, it's no secret. I think myself and a lot of other Democrats are dismayed by the continued behavior of our Attorney General in the state, whether it's writing inappropriate letters to judges to weigh in on decisions they make from the bench, or the thing that I think I commented on the other night as well, where you have a district judge in Travis County who has issued an injunction saying that because of the pandemic, all Texans do qualify to vote by mail in the upcoming runoff election due to the fact that they could be at risk by catching COVID-19. And the Attorney General has taken the judge's ruling and basically instructed election officials around the state to disregard it. He doesn't have the authority to do that. He's entitled to his opinion. He's not entitled to his own facts. And so, I'm concerned about the actions of the Attorney General, and I think it is something the legislature needs to pay more attention to.
Do you see hearings or anything like that coming up?
Well, I don't know about that. There's no hearings right now happening in the House or the Senate because the Capitol is closed, so it'd be premature to speculate on that. But look, I think we've seen in the past when elected officials have gotten too far out on a limb, sometimes the legislature has come in and taken a look at those actions. I think that's certainly appropriate to do in the context of the events that I mentioned that have happened lately with the Attorney General.
About 20 seconds left here. Give me a grade on the reopening of Texas so far, 1 to 10, 10 being the best. How's it going?
Well, I think it's an incomplete because I think we don't know yet. But I'm very troubled by the fact that the governor had a phase 1, and we're going to give it 2 weeks till May 18th to see if we could move to a phase 2. He got impatient, and it lasted all of 4 days before he moved to phase 2. So I'm very concerned about that accelerated timeline. All
right. State Rep Chris Turner, good to see you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
Thanks a lot.